Hi, and welcome to Connie Talk. Today I have a guest speaker who I'm really excited to talk to. We are going to go into some alternatives to maximizing the amount of time spent in the kitchen, prepping meals, and getting healthy, delicious food on the table. Something that I find as a challenge with a lot of moms is that sometimes people spend too much time obsessing over exact ingredient amounts and whether they have the absolutely everything on the recipe list, and I wanted to find out if there was an alternative solution to that. So today I have here Kim Calichio. She is a local mom and businesswoman, and she is going to take it away. Kim, thanks for being on the show today, and I would love to hear more about your business and the origin story of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Connie, for having me. My name is Kim Calichio, and my company, The Connected Chef, does cooking and gardening classes with kids and adults. And we are really focused on supporting parents in making sure that mealtime is accessible and not overwhelming. Because we all know, as a parent myself, I know how overwhelming just getting food on the table can really be. I was a restaurant chef for many years, and when I learned to cook, I never went to cooking school. I learned on my own and through the kitchen. And I learned that cooking was really about the methods and techniques. It was about how you're cooking things and not about what you're cooking. And when I became a parent, I watched friends around me struggle with getting food on the table. And it wasn't as difficult for me. And I was really curious about why. And as I started to analyze and think about that more, it dawned on me that the fact that I focused on those methods and techniques, I focused on how I was cooking food as opposed to what I was using. That was really the deciding factor. And what happens when you're doing that, what happens when you're cooking based on method and technique, is you are able to apply that information broadly. So at The Connected Chef, we really use that approach as the direct way of how we teach people to cook. We're focusing on those methods and techniques, and we're using any ingredient that we have available to us.
That's a really cool concept and business model. Obviously, being a chef is like super unsustainable as you become a parent,
Yes.
and really transforming what you were doing and you were passionate about into something that you can even be more passionate about now is great. And I completely agree. Whenever we grow up into adults or just become adults, we only know, as long as we aren't trained chefs, all we know is what our parents showed us or what we learned on Food Network, or we just assume we open a recipe book and follow instructions. So learning a different way to think about food is something that I really am excited to learn more about. So tell me more about this concept of cooking without recipes.
Yeah, so it's in the beginning, it can be really scary for people to think about cooking without a recipe. And when I have clients and students come on with me, they turn around and are like, what do you mean? I just so as clients are coming on with me, I realized that they were terrified to cook without a recipe. And they would ask me, what do you mean I have to cook without, like, how am I supposed to know what to use and how much of this to put in? And they would laugh like, sure, it's easy for you, but it doesn't translate the same for me. So the important piece is to remember that cooking, there aren't as many rules in cooking as people like to make them. So when we first start working with people, cooking without a recipe feels really terrifying because it's something that they've never thought to do before. When we learn to cook, most often we are learning to be able to use a recipe as a crutch and give us guidance. And recipes can be really great in that way to give us ideas. But what happens is we're not really learning what's happening in the process of cooking. So really starting with the actual methods and techniques and teaching people what those are and what they entail is the first step. We have a cooking series that talks only about 5 different methods, and it's searing, braising, building flavor, roasting, and and knife skills. And those 5 things are the foundation of everything else that you're doing. So when you're able to understand what those concepts are and what those processes are, then you can begin to apply that really easily across the board. And then it's just about what kind of food you have accessible to you and being able to go into a market or order food online, however you do that, and say, I'm going to get these particular things. I'm going to have a little bit of a grain. I'm going to have some veggies. I'm going to have a meat if you're somebody who eats meat. And then being able to say, okay, how am I cooking this? Typically, a home cook's process is finding the recipes and dishes, listing out what those ingredients are, and then sourcing them, right? Where when I'm thinking about food and the way I'm teaching our clients to think about food is doing the opposite. Thinking about what's available to you, what ingredients you have available and that you want to be eating. Then thinking, what methods can I attach to those particular ingredients? And then starting the process from there. So it feels very backwards at first, but when you are learning those methods and techniques as a foundation, it ends up becoming very simple, very quick.
That's a really cool way to learn differently, especially whenever people start to want to eat healthier and cook healthier meals beyond hamburger helper in a box or macaroni and cheese for every meal, and being confident to say, I'm going to sear a steak and make paella for dinner and just throw it on the table without getting stopped, because eliminating barriers is something that I work very closely with my clients, whether it's in exercise setting, in the kitchen setting, and whatever skills that they need to develop. But not understanding how to cut matchstick carrots. If you feel like you're stumbling on something as small as that, it can be stressful and add on and make cooking this really uncomfortable or not a happy experience, and something that we want to do as an educator and as a health professional is help people develop this healthy and loving relationship with food. So it sounds to me like you are explaining basic fundamental skills that you can apply to anything and really have kitchen confidence,
Yeah.
which is something that sounds really amazing. So if somebody wanted to just take the first step to contacting you, to reaching out to you, what would they be able to do?
Well, the first step would be going to our website at theconnectedchef.com, and there you'll see different offerings that we have available. We have some virtual offerings and in-person local classes as well. So you can go there and see what suits you. I always tell clients, though, that what separates the Connected Chef's work from other cooking classes is really our ability to hand tailor the work that we're doing to the individual. And this is really important for parents, because cooking without a recipe is so much more than just about healthy food and getting that on the table. It's about making sure that your time in the kitchen is reduced as much as possible. So finding out what your barriers are, like you mentioned, and having us be able to work with you in that regard is really important. So even if you're looking on our website and you're seeing some of the offerings that we have, we really always encourage people to email us and let us know what it is that you're struggling with specifically, and allow us the ability to match you to a specific program as well.
That sounds excellent. And just to be sure, you also are able to help integrate the kids into the kitchen too, right?
Yes, 100%, because we can't get away from them. So, which is wonderful and it's great, but it's also about cultivating a positive relationship with food. And there's so many ways to do that. Having your kids cook with you in the kitchen is just one of those ways. But conversation and you just cooking in the kitchen and being happy about it is a major piece there. And I talk to people all the time about the fact that if your kid is watching how stressed you are around getting dinner on the table, whether you mean to or not, and whether they realize it or not, they're making that association between food and stress. And what we really want to do is cultivate a positive, healthy relationship with food and help you do that in your own home as well. So a lot of our classes will talk about how do you incorporate your kid and what are the things that they can do alongside you in the kitchen. And parents are pleasantly surprised at how easy it is for kids to be incorporated, and it actually makes life less stressful when they can bring them into it as opposed to kind of exile them out of the kitchen. Sometimes we need
100%.
to exile them, yeah.
I totally get it. I totally get it. And it's awesome. And I love this message. So Kim Calichio, thank you so much for coming on today to talk with us about your business and how you help busy families fall in love with food. Like we said, we will post her contact information below, theconnectedchef.com. And if you are loving what you're hearing here, be sure to subscribe to Connie Talk and let us know in the comments if you like what you're hearing, if there's other tips that you'd like to know. I want to have a conversation with you. So thanks, Kim. It was so great talking with you.
Thank you.
And stay strong, mamas. I will see you in the city.